Thank you all so much for joining me on the webcast today. I am very excited about this What's New in Revit 2026 presentation because just like the last several years, there are tons of new improvements to this latest release of Revit. That being said, we have a lot to get through today, not only because there is so much new improvements, but also we are covering all disciplines and users of Revit today. So there is a good chance we might run over the top of the hour. If that is the case and you need to drop off the call at that time, no hard feelings, and you can catch anything you missed on the recording. As Ashley said, will be available in the next day or so. I would also like to thank, I believe we'll have Alice and Brett joining us to monitor the question panel. So if you have a question, feel free to go ahead and ask away. And with the amount of material we have, we might not have time for live Q&A at the end. So if you do have a question, just go ahead and type it in. If we can get you an answer on the call today, we will. And if not, I will be able to follow up in the next several days. The new features in Revit 2026 fall under these 6 key themes: new design capabilities, enhanced model quality and accuracy, increased project efficiency, better decision-making, improved collaboration and interoperability, better documentation and deliverables. Furthermore, here is a list of improvements for core features. I will give everyone a second or two to peruse the list here. I probably won't spend too much time on these lists because we're going to go through these all point by point. Now, here's a list of improvements for architecture and interior design. I'll give everyone a second or two to look at this one as well. And here's a list of improvements for the engineering disciplines again. I will give everyone a second or two to look over this list. So let's now take a look at each one of the core features in Revit 2026. Recap Pro 2026 introduces powerful scan-to-mesh capabilities, enabling the conversion of point clouds into segmented mesh models using customized local processing. The Recap Pro's mesh editor allows you to select mesh surfaces within your mesh model and classify them into custom sets of groups and layers, allowing you to clean mesh models before exporting them into various formats, including NWC for ACC, OBJ for Inventor, and Revit format. The Revit plugin allows you to link these intelligent mesh models into Revit, significantly improving performance compared to point clouds. In Revit, you can use the Add to Document feature to import the mesh geometry into the Revit environment, or use the Promote to Family feature to convert a segmented mesh into a Revit family. Here's a quick overview of how the scanned mesh workflow works. Using this new workflow allows you to extract the information you need from a mesh generated from a point cloud. Once the mesh is created by local processing, you can open and edit the mesh in the mesh editor. Then you can select and classify objects from the mesh. Once the features are selected, you can create a new classification layer and apply the selected features to the target layer. So here we're selecting some walls, and the select and classify process can be repeated for any of the objects in the mesh. Then you can use the Recap Mesh plugin in Revit to import the mesh objects you classified and exported from the mesh editor right into Revit. The plugin also gives you the ability to create a Revit family from the mesh objects you imported. The scanned mesh workflow gives you an efficient way to create a mesh from a point cloud. Classify and export only what you need from the mesh and utilize the classified mesh to objects in the design environment. All right. Within the Revit family editor, Users can further refine these objects by adding connection points, extrusions, model lines, and parameters. Recap files are seamlessly integrated with the Autodesk Construction Cloud, enabling enhanced collaboration and clash detection workflows. NWC files are automatically flagged as clashable within ACC, allowing users to perform comprehensive clash analysis. Looks like we skipped ahead in here. Hang on a second. There we go. Yeah, so let's watch a little video here on how that works. Hang on, we lost the slide here. Okay, actually, let's go to the next feature here. So Revit 2026 introduces a tech preview of accelerated graphics, which overhauls the graphics pipeline for improved performance and hardware utilization. This feature allows users to toggle the accelerated mode on a per view basis, leveraging modern graphics components to speed up navigation, making the design reviews faster. This feature supports most geometry displays in both 3D and 2D views, including RVT links, while maintaining graphical consistency with non-accelerated views. It's designed as a per view setting, allowing users to toggle acceleration on or off for individual views. This implementation enables incremental adoption and testing within existing workflows. Let's take a look at how to use accelerated Revit graphics. And if you've launched 26, you can't really miss this. So this might not be completely new to some of you if you've launched the software. So the accelerated graphics feature transforms Revit's graphics pipeline, providing you with top tier performance, optimized hardware utilization, and high quality fidelity using the latest advancements in graphics technology. You can simply toggle on the acceleration on a per view basis using the right-click context menu or an optional on-screen toolbar, like I said, which you will absolutely notice the first time you launch Revit 26 3D views. You'll easily identify accelerated views by their colored borders. You can navigate and edit your model within these accelerated views while other views remain unaffected. This selective implementation allows you to compare side by side and adopt the feature gradually. The acceleration state is temporary and not saved between Revit sessions, nor if you close the view, ensuring your projects remain compatible with non-accelerated environments. Should you prefer to turn off this tech preview, go to the Graphics tab of Revit Options. By taking these incremental steps toward delivering a modern and fast platform to you, Autodesk can ensure that this transformation happens while thoroughly testing the most complex of your real-world scenarios. This approach ensures that you, as the Revit user, will have a smoother transition to accelerated graphics pipeline. And of course, with any newly implemented technology, there are some limitations to be aware of. It has limited support for textures and realistic views, which currently display as shaded views. Accelerated Revit graphics supports most 3D geometry, including RVT links, but excludes coordination models and point clouds. Some pattern types, including drafting patterns, pattern overrides, and cut patterns, are not displayed in accelerated views. Line patterns and weights are also not supported. Annotations are displayed and can be edited, but are not accelerated, which may limit performance gains in heavily annotated views. The new feature supports surface patterns, colors, and silhouette edges, but currently has limitations on certain view types like sheets, drafting views, and legends. Some advanced visual effects like shadows and backgrounds with sketchy lines, and discipline-specific effects like structural and MEP hidden lines. But the output for operations, print, export, and render will use non-accelerated state of the view, even if you have it turned on. The feature does require GPU-enabled machines with 4 gig minimum recommendation, and enabling acceleration in multiple views may increase memory utilization accelerating many views may consume a large amount of RAM resources. So additional RAM capacity is recommended for optimal performance. And RAM shortages will impact overall Revit performance, which accelerated graphics cannot improve. All right, here's another one for you. View references have been enhanced to report instance-based reference labels and shared parameters. Previously, when placing a view reference that referenced another view, the label was type-based, making it difficult to customize the value. Now you have access to an instance parameter, which makes it more flexible and easier to customize. You can define a unique value to the reference label in the instance properties when you select a view reference callout. In addition, a new default reference label parameter is available as a type parameter to support a default value. So you can also include shared parameters in callout heads, as well as elevation marks, section marks, and view references. This update allows for way more flexible approach to managing view data across all types of callouts. The workflow for adding and editing these shared parameters remains consistent with other family categories. The practical implications of these enhancements are far-reaching. The title block scale override defines a custom override value when views at different scales are placed on the same sheet. This feature is implemented through a new title block type parameter called scale override for multiple values. Traditionally, Revit would display an as indicated text in such cases. Now users can specify their own text to better suit the project needs or standards. If a sheet contains views of a single scale, of course, the standard scale value will still be reported. This parameter only accepts text input, so numeric values are not supported, preventing users from inputting an actual scale ratio. All right, so here is a list of some of the coordination model enhancements for Revit 2026, including color overrides, visibility, and tools to identify the linked models. So let's take a closer look at some of these new features that are available in coordination models. You now have precise control over what model categories are visible and how they are colored in views. Improvements include hiding and revealing coordination model objects and enhancing communication and collaboration by applying clear visual distinctions. These enhancements reduce errors by simplifying the coordination of the work across disciplines. All right. The Manage Links dialog discloses imported 2D and 2D CAD files, so DWG, DXF, DGN, etc., providing a centralized location to control and monitor both linked and imported CAD data. This eliminates the need to manually hunt through the project to find imported CAD files. You can easily remove or show these files directly from the Manage Links dialog or right-click menu. Also, the Manage Links button has been relocated to a new Manage panel for easy discoverability, consolidating access to all linked management functionalities at the start of the ribbon, or the kind of left side over there. This new feature modifies the behavior of Revit when loading work sharing enabled Revit links. Previously, every load operation would trigger the creation of a backup folder, even if the link was not being modified. This update eliminates the unnecessary creation of these folders during simple load operations, reducing input-output overhead and storage space consumption. So I was really excited to see this one. So this is particularly beneficial in environments where users have limited permissions, such as in desktop connector workflows with view plus download permissions. And for users who prefer the legacy behavior, Revit.ini option is provided to restore the functionality, and that's listed here at the bottom. Linking IFC files into your models is now up to 50% faster than previous releases of Revit. Additionally, you have increased control when linking an IFC model In the linking dialog, use the drop-down list to select a positioning option. IFC links can be positioned at the same datum and orientation as allowed during export. The default position places the link's origin at the internal Revit origin. This enhancement simplifies coordination with external consultants using IFC files, ensuring accurate positioning and orientation of linked models and reducing the need for manual adjustments. Now for one of my personal favorites. Here are some improvements for Dynamo. So we only got one slide for this, so kind of crammed a lot in here. The package manager includes version compatibility information. Package authors can add version compatibility information to their packages on the Dynamo Package Manager website. This allows you to identify versions that are compatible with your setup. The install button defaults to a compatible version if one is available. The TuneUp extension for monitoring graph performance has also been improved. TuneUp is a profiling extension that logs how long each node takes to run and displays this information in a sidebar. This allows you to identify problem areas to optimize graph performance and understand which operations take the most time to execute. TuneUp is available as a built-in extension. Access TuneUp in the extensions menu in Dynamo. The mesh toolkit is available out of the box, and it allows users to import meshes from file formats like OBJ and .mix. It can also create meshes from Dynamo geometry objects and manually build meshes using vertices and indices. The toolkit also provides nodes for modifying and repairing meshes, as well as extracting horizontal slices for fabrication purposes. The Python Net3 package is available in the package manager. The new Python Net3 engine in Dynamo allows independent updates without waiting for the new Dynamo or Revit releases. It improves .NET compatibility, fixes inerrable detection, and updates key packages like NumPy and Pandas. However, some scripts may need adjustments due to breaking changes. After installing the package, you can set the Python engine for Python script nodes by double-clicking the node and selecting the engine from the drop-down menu or from the node options, the three-dot menu, Python engine version. There have also been multiple workflow enhancements or user experience optimizations. The help documentation is available for 200 additional nodes. For more details, you can see the node changes page. CSI reference values have been removed from Revit content files starting in Revit 26. Sample files no longer include parameter values for OmniClass number, OmniClass title, keynote, and assembly code, and the assembly description. As a result, Dynamo for Revit sample graphs that include these parameters have been updated. Graphs reading these parameter values will now return empty results, which may affect subsequent nodes in your workflow. To ensure they continue working as expected, review and update any nodes that rely on these values. Length parameter has been renamed to system length. The length parameter for structural steel framing elements, so beams and columns, to maintain functionality, just adjust any graph that relies on this parameter name. For example, using the element.getParameterValueByName API method. Several nodes have been removed and deprecated. Refer to the node changes page for full details and recommended replacement nodes. And for a complete list of highlights, see what's new in Dynamo for Revit 3.4.1. To find more major updates and what they mean and how to use them, just go ahead and take a look at the Dynamo blog. All right, so here we've got data exchange connectors provide an easy way to share and consume granular data. The most recent updates of our connectors introduce new positioning features which allow flexible loading of data sets depending on the project setup. In addition, the latest Revit connector provides the option to load data exchanges as model groups, which is very useful if the data exchange is placed multiple times in the model. Using model groups, all instances of the data exchanges can be updated easily. In addition to referencing workflows, data exchanges can also be loaded into Power BI to create data visualizations and QA processes. The Revit connector is currently still in beta, but they are expecting an official release by mid-May. So you can check out that QR code on the screen if you want to learn more about that. And here's an example of the Autodesk Data Exchange Power BI connector that streamlines the integration of Revit data into Power BI dashboards, enabling enhanced BIM data analysis and visualization. This connector allows users to create a data exchange directly from a Revit 3D view or filtered categories, saving the file to Autodesk Docs. The data exchange is then imported into Power BI using the Autodesk Data Connector, which can be installed from the Autodesk App Store. Once installed, the connector appears under the Get Data menu in Power BI. Key features include visualization integration. The Autodesk viewer can be imported as a visual in Power BI, allowing users to interact with BIM models directly within their reports. Dynamic updates. So dashboards can be refreshed to reflect changes in Revit models, ensuring real-time alignment between design updates and analytics. And users can drag and drop variables, apply filters, and create interactive graphs tailored to specific project needs. This tool is compatible with Revit 2023 and newer releases, making it ideal for people seeking seamless cloud-based collaboration and data-driven insights. All right. Autodesk is making it easier to define custom element classifications. In Revit 26, as previously mentioned, they renamed the Omni class parameter to classification. This change enables you to implement different classification systems beyond Omni class, adapting to diverse project requirements. The update also streamlines access to the classification definition file, allowing direct access to the classification taxonomy text file through the new classification dialog box. The classification parameter value persists in the project even when a definition text file is not available to other users. One limitation to be aware of is the OmniClass title parameter value will be lost after upgrading to Revit 2026 if the default classification taxonomy text is used. So to retain the OmniClass title parameter value, define the classification taxonomy .txt according to OmniClass standard before upgrading. This improved accessibility supports better project organization and data management across different industry standards. The new user profile dialog is designed to collect essential information about the user's role and discipline to customize the Revit interface and default settings. This dialog gives you an easy way to keep your job, role, and industry information up to date. If you choose to skip the update, which I think I did, the dialog reappears after 60 days, but no more than twice a year. Revit 26 introduces add-in dependency isolation, an opt-in feature designed to prevent conflicts between add-ins. By default, add-ins in the same folder share the same context. However, developers can use the use Revit context tag in the add-in manifest to isolate an add-in in its own context, or the context name tag to group add-ins into shared context regardless of the folder location. This allows for better management of add-in dependencies and reduces the risk of one add-in interfering with another, thus just enhancing the overall stability of Revit. The reload configuration process in Revit 26 has undergone substantial optimization, resulting in significant improvements in both performance and stability. Through rigorous testing, known sources of disconnections during reload operations have been addressed. This translates to more robust and reliable workflows, particularly for large, complex projects where frequent configuration changes are common. The optimized process also significantly reduces the time required for reloading configurations, with an average time savings of 72% observed across a range of test cases. This minimizes disruptions to project workflows and allows users to quickly adapt to changes in the project environment. So now we're going to take a look at the industry-specific improvements, and we will kick things off here with architecture and interior design. And just touching on one other core feature, I didn't have a slide for this, but I noticed myself when I launched Revit 20, or when I installed Revit 26, it was like the fastest install I think I've ever had of Autodesk software to this point. It was the same with AutoCAD 26 as well. So I don't think they're advertising that, but I know from experience, I downloaded first. So after the download and launched it, it was like installed within seconds. I'm not even kidding. I think it was less than a minute just for the initial install. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some architecture and interior design. The 2026 update introduces significant enhancements to Revit's TopoSolid features, particularly in subdivision management. The subdivide offset parameter now allows for negative values, enabling the creation of recessed elements such as sunken roads or landscape beds, while positive values support raised surfaces. This flexibility is complemented by the ability to create and apply different TopoSolid types to subdivisions, allowing you to model complex site design without manually splitting or joining. When upgrading legacy topo surfaces into TopoSolids, Revit automatically generates subdivisions with materials matching the original subregions, maintaining a flush relationship with the host TopoSolid through an offset of 0. Some things to be aware of are offset values cannot exceed subdivision type thickness to prevent floating geometry. Legacy parameters like material and inherit contour are no longer applicable, as these settings are now controlled through type properties. Revit's geometry limitations restrict layer thickness to a minimum of 1/128th of an inch, requiring adjustments for thinner legacy subdivisions. Revit 26 improves the accuracy of TopoSolid volume calculations. The new algorithm employs a boundary constraint method based on the new TopoSolid's boundaries and projects vertically from the lowest to highest surface point, mirroring the legacy topo surface approach. This eliminates the inclusion of extraneous volumes from areas beneath or adjacent to the new TopoSolid, which caused overestimations in previous versions. It enables more accurate excavation planning, quantity takeoffs, cost estimations, and material requirement assessments, especially in complex site projects that require precise grading and excavation. Revit 26 introduces significant improvements to the link topography workflow, ensuring that TopoSolid models derived from Civil 3D files linked through ACC docs are more accurate and reliable. This resolves prior issues where certain topography files failed to generate correctly, improving compatibility across platforms. Performance enhancements include optimized nested link loading, reducing processing overhead for complex linked models, and enhancing performance when working with larger complex site models. Additional optimizations reduce journal log entries related to tag hosting and rehosting on linked models, and minimize unnecessary regenerations of linked models. The new void cut stability for TopoSolids enhances the reliability of Boolean operations by applying small random shifts to void geometry. This technique, known as geometric perturbation, helps overcome computational limitations that can cause void cuts to fail. The shifts are minimal and occur along the X or Y axis, ensuring the original geometry is only slightly altered. The changes are documented in warnings and the journal file, providing transparency and allowing users to track adjustments made to their models. The approach improves the robustness of TopoSolid modeling, similar to its application in other CAD operations like IFC import and topo surface splitting. The new copy and paste functionality for slab sub-elements eliminates redundant point placement. Users can now select elevation points or split lines in a TopoSolid floors or roofs and copy them and paste them onto another similar type. Revit 26 also introduces new dynamic controls over TopoSolid point thresholds via the Revit INI file, addressing longstanding user concerns about the geometric fidelity in complex terrains. So it went from a range of recommended from 10 to 50,000 points, and the value is defined at 20,000. And here, let's take a little video showing the picks and clicks of the aforementioned items. First, we see some recessed subdivisions with negative values, as well as the ability to model complex overlapping geometry. So there's our recessed. Then here's some overlapping geometry here. Next, we'll take a look at the new constrained algorithm for cut and fill calculations, which matches the accuracy of legacy topo surfaces. And tiny shifts are now applied to void geometry cuts, reducing the likelihood of failures and improving your site modeling experience. With linked topography, we have an improved efficiency of Civil 3D surfaces linked to the project via Autodesk Docs, addressing previous compatibility issues and ensuring more accurate translations. And then once this reloads here, we'll take a look at the copy and pasting from TopoSolid here, pasting those sub-elements onto a floor. All right. You can now create architectural walls in a room using a wall segment or within a room's boundaries. Create walls automatically by selecting an area bounded by room bounding elements. Additionally, walls can be created by selecting individual segments of existing walls. Use the tab key to include or exclude intersecting columns. Some things to keep in mind here are you can only pick walls that are cut by the associated level of the current plan. The target walls or linked model should have room bounding properties enabled. Curtain wall, ellipse wall, face wall, in-place wall, and room boundary line cannot be picked as targets to create walls. I did test this. I was thinking I could just pick a room element, but no, it's got to be a wall. Another thing is the picked target may be inaccurate when two walls are joined at a sharp angle. They're telling me it's 32 degrees or less, or if two walls are joined with the square off function or option. The core layer requirement in compound structures is no longer mandatory, making it easier to delete core layers or move layers outside the core boundary. This gives users the flexibility to create compound elements without a core, improving the default joins. To ensure the wall joins properly, relocate all layers to the interior or exterior side of a wall assembly. Note that if existing dimensions reference the core centerline, core face exterior, or core face interior of an element, the dimension will be deleted after the core is modified and becomes empty. Revit 26 introduces the ability to customize the layer priority independently from function for all compound elements, including walls, floors, roofs, ceilings, slabs, and TopoSolids. You can customize layer priority from the element type level using the Edit Assembly dialog. The priority number in compound structures in Revit, ranging from 1 to 5, determines the order which layers connect when walls intersect, with 1 being the highest priority, typically assigned to the structural layers, and 5 being the lowest, usually for finished layers. The values must still grow incrementally from the core to the outer finishes. This unlocks your ability to create more robust compound systems. Sheet collections in Revit 26 now support Custom parameters and schedules. Introduced recently, a sheet collection is a container that groups sheets together for organizational and management purposes. This enhancement allows you to add custom parameters directly to the sheet collection. These parameters will then automatically propagate to all sheets within that collection, ensuring consistency of information across the entire set. Parameter values will show as read-only on every sheet in the collection since they are driven by the sheet collection. Modifying the parameter value on the sheet collection will update the value for all sheets, and title block labels if included there. Moving sheets into another sheet collection will do the same and automatically update the value based on what is defined in the sheet collection. Furthermore, this functionality extends to schedules, allowing you to create sheet collection specific schedules and define parameter values directly within them. This is especially useful for managing revisions, issue dates, or other metadata that applies to a specific set of sheets. When using sheet collection key schedules, the key name parameter will also appear on each collection. Finally, all parameters added to the sheet collection category support the association of global parameters, providing an additional layer of control and standardization. The sheet list schedule enhancements in Revit expand parameter accessibility and control. Scale, sheet width, and sheet height parameters are now directly available in schedules, facilitating better sheet management. Title block category parameters, both built-in and shared, can be included and are accessible both in the project and family space. The new primary title block parameter introduces new granular control over sheets in multi-title block scenarios. For sheets with a single title block, this parameter is automatically set and read-only. On sheets with multiple title blocks, users can designate one as primary, ensuring accurate data representation in the sheet list schedule. These enhancements collectively offer Revit users more flexibility and precision in documenting and managing project information through the sheet list schedules. The next generation of Autodesk, Insight, is now included with your Revit installation. Insight utilizes advanced simulation engines to provide directional feedback on key performance indicators, including energy use intensity, operational carbon, daylighting metrics, and heating and cooling load analysis. The next generation of Insight introduces Carbon Insight, which helps you analyze carbon impacts and trade-offs between building systems associated with a model. Insight now offers a Design Data Exchange, or DDX, reporting tool, which provides an automated connection between Autodesk Insight 360 and the AIA 2030 commitment program. The tool allows architecture firms to automatically report project and portfolio performance data to the DDX platform, supporting the AIA 2030 commitment goal of achieving net zero carbon emissions and building operations by 2030. Let's take a quick look at this in action. Let's see here. Okay, so access the AIA DDX reporting page by clicking on the three-dotted menu on the right side of the project thumbnail, then enter your credentials and fill in the form with mandatory data. Inspect available benchmarks to compare your results powered by Zero tool through AIA DDX. And then you can add additional optional information about renewable energy that was considered in the analysis. So in this case, the photovoltaic panels, Insight is open and highly customizable to suit the needs of every project, enabled by using factors and metrics to explore and expand the analysis. You'll want to configure the embodied carbon analysis by assigning embodied carbon definitions to the materials in your model. Inspect the results using different charts and make any necessary adjustments. And then you can inspect the results in your DDX reporting page and fill the details in the embodied carbon form. There we go. And then you can save, and it'll go back to your main DDX splash page, showing a total savings of minus 120%. Revit 2026 improves interoperability with energy analysis tools by allowing users to maintain the original Revit element name when exporting to GBXML. The GBXML export code and business logic have been moved from Revit Core to the platform technologies. They also upgraded the Open Studio version in Revit 26, which may produce slight differences from previous versions. Just something to be aware of. Forma has now introduced new capabilities that integrate with Revit workflow. Autodesk Forma is a cloud-based platform that supports early-stage project planning and design, offering conceptual design tools and predictive analytics and automation workflows. The update function of the new Forma plugin for Revit now remains active after deleting linked Forma elements, allowing iterative edits without disrupting synchronization. We have also increased Forma's geometry processing capacity, supporting the transfer of more complex Revit models. Forma Board, an interactive digital whiteboard within Autodesk's Forma, has been enhanced with a direct integration with Autodesk Docs, allowing users to pin up Revit sheets directly from published Revit models. This allows you to visualize, annotate, and review your Revit documentation. You can add individual or multiple Revit sheets or images organized by discipline with a single click. This streamlines collaboration, enhances design review, and improves project communication. Also, projects in Forma have transitioned to sites, introducing a unified hierarchy for better project organization and cross-platform consistency. And of course, there's a QR code for more information. The integration between Revit and Twinmotion is further enhanced in Revit 26. This release brings improved workflow stability, ensuring a smoother experience when using family substitution. A key improvement is that all Revit model categories are now enabled for Twinmotion substitution, providing greater flexibility in replacing Revit families with high-quality Twinmotion assets. Users can now also define an editable dynamic substitution path for storing downloaded assets, making it easier to manage and organize their Twinmotion library. Autodesk Informed Design enables architects to work with customizable, predefined building products, ensuring valid results while allowing manufacturers to share their product with design stakeholders. Informed Design enables industrialized construction, the application of manufacturing principles to the built environment, and aims to transform the AECO industry. Informed Design for Revit is an add-in available to download at no cost. And as you can see here, we're looking for the individual components. Once published, we can pick the sizes and insert directly into the model. And then once they're used, they can be back updated to Informed Design. All right. So continuing with the shift away from the options bar last year, the following controls have been moved from the options bar to the ribbon. As you can see, this includes the most common modify tools like move, copy, rotate, and array. I know there's a lot on these next lists, but some of these, you really can't miss these once you start using the tools. So these items were relocated as well. And we had some relocated with dimensions. All right, so let's now take a look at the updates with respect to structure. With the new Parametric Rebar cranking feature, you can directly manipulate rebar crank geometry. It enables intuitive adjustments to crank lengths, angles, and positions. You can define crank parameters as type or instance properties, which allows for both standardized and unique crank configurations within the project. Dynamically adjust crank geometry based on host element changes as Rebar adapts automatically to modifications in concrete cover, member size, or rebar set layout. This leads to improved clash detection with accurate crank representation and provides a more realistic representation of rebar geometry for better coordination and interference checking. It supports complex rebar shapes and varying crank configurations, offering flexibility in modeling intricate rebar arrangements. Let's watch a little video showing this in action. You can see here how to enable the parametric rebar crank feature and modify as needed. Notice we're setting that parameter there, and then we can click on the items and simply adjust the parameter values. And then once we've got it modeled, we can take a look at it and further accurately depict these items in schedules and details. Revit 26, there's been some upgrades to the steel connections feature, which allows for some faster and easier customizations. You can now move standalone elements inside custom connections while in edit mode. You can use the sketch editor for plates and bolt, hole, and anchor and shear stud patterns in the custom connections. While in edit mode, you can modify element properties in custom connections while in edit mode. And during edit mode or add elements mode, selection is constrained and will not work on elements not related to the custom connection. You can edit elements associated to the input elements of the custom connection as before. Removing elements from a custom connection will no longer delete them from a model. The connection will update without them, and those elements will remain as standalone objects in the model. Edit type for standard connections inside custom connections is no longer available from outside the edit mode. So to change those connections, you'll have to use the modify parameters while inside the template edit mode. Steel profile type for beams inside custom connections cannot be edited from the template editor. Let's take a look at a short video here. Let's see, there we go. You can see we created a custom connection here from the create custom editor, and then we can add individual elements. And then we can click edit and click the individual elements we edited, modify their parameter values. So we're changing the thickness here. And then once we've got thicknesses updated, we can move them up or down. And then we can also edit the sketch of those items. So we're going to a top view here, edit the boundary, and make some minor adjustments to that plate. There it is. When you model steel elements, Revit detects that elements are joined and automatically adds a setback that moves the end of the connected elements so that there is no collision. This legacy behavior that is focused on the drawing presentation neglected the model accuracy and usability downstream. Revit 26 introduces a new global option available in the structural settings. With one click, you are able to remove all setbacks and make the elements modeled from point to point. The function works on all existing steel elements in the model as well as newly created ones. Most importantly, you can disable the functionality at any time, and Revit will return to the traditional behavior. Accurate modeling of these members will lead to better estimation and validation of steel elements. And here's a little demo showing how to find and enable and disable this feature. It's on the structure tab, structure panel, and there's a little tiny down button to get to the structural settings. We'll show that again. And then from there, you can go to the far right tab. You can see here the difference in 3D. So the members are fully extended into the connection points with it enabled. When we draw new members here, they're extending into each other and overlapping. And then when we go back in here, let's do a little move here. You can see how they're affected. And when we go back to there we go, little tiny button there, tab at the end, disable, it'll return back to the legacy behavior here. Newly created steel plates will have a meaningful material automatically assigned when created manually or by a steel connection. The default material of newly created steel plates depends on the unit chosen for length in the project unit's dialog box. If imperial units like inches are selected, the default material for newly created steel plates is steel ASTM A36. If metric units like millimeters are selected, the default material for newly created steel plates is steel S235. If the default material is not loaded into the projects, the steel plates will have the first steel material that is loaded, and that's probably a metal stud layer. And again, here's a quick little video showing what happens when you create a connection with a steel plate in Revit 26. And as you can see, once it's modeled here, we got to make our clicks to get it in place. And when we select it, click on the plate here, you can see it's set to ASTM A36 as our units were set to inches. All right, the paint area and exact weight parameters are now available for structural steel elements. You can find these parameters for any steel elements created using a Revit shape-driven family. This aligns the ability and calculation method of these parameters with the existing paint area and exact weight parameters on steel fabrication elements. The exact weight parameter outputs the exact weight of the element by taking into account any cuts, copes, shortens, etc. The formula used is volume multiplied by material density. The paint area parameter outputs the total outer surface of the element used to calculate the paint quantity estimates. The formula used is perimeter multiplied by cut length. You will need to be aware that for hollow profiles, the value will only consider the outer area of the section. For inner openings or copes, skewed cuts at the element ends are not subtracted from the displayed paint area, as the formula uses only the cut length for generating the paint area of the element. Revit 26 includes a more intuitive approach to adding hooks, end treatments, or cranks to rebar ends. The new show start and end bar orientation feature will display bar orientations clearly in both 2D and 3D views, streamlining the process for reinforcement detailing and improving visualization across the design workflows. You can now precisely align fabric sheets and custom fabric sheets to match the concrete cover requirements, ensuring compliance with design specifications. This will preserve design intent when transitioning from standard sets to custom fabrication sheets, allowing seamless automation of precast reinforcement workflows and enhancing productivity for rebar and precast detailing. Revit 26 introduces enhanced support for country-specific design codes, ensuring compliance with regional standards for steel design and analysis in India, Europe, Australia, as well as Canada. All right, so now let's take a look at all the great improvements for MEP. Zoning for HVAC has been improved by combining Revit's HVAC zone and system zone objects together. This will allow users to be more flexible while using system zones. This enables the definition of zones by sketch or spaces and includes expanded properties. I did some testing on this and it works just as expected. Legacy system zones are migrated forward unchanged, and the keyboard shortcut SZ, short for system zones, still works as well. And to elaborate a little more, HVAC zoning in Revit 26 has been significantly improved with this merger of the HVAC zone and system zone objects. We now have a more versatile and powerful system zones, and it allows zones to be defined by sketch and space, and it includes expanded properties and supports scheduling and color fill schemes, as you'll see here. adding a little color scheme to this floor plan, and then we'll be able to apply this to our schedule as well. We'll zoom in on this little schedule here. Got it organized by all of our zones, and then we can take a look in 3D and see the color scheme for these zones as well. So the consolidation reduces confusion between the previous zoning objects while basically combining their benefits. And you can see, there we go. All right. Revit 26 now has provided support for multi-core cables addressing installation types used worldwide. Prior to this enhancement, Revit only supported American wire gauge convention, where the size assigned to the conductors was automatic based on the rating assigned to the circuit. New features will allow users to set and modify the size of conductors, providing more control and design. Now, wire type and wire size are replaced with cable type and cable size. Voltage drop has been removed, and more conductors details have been added. As such, this will better meet the needs of users outside the US or anyone generally looking for greater flexibility in conductor calculations. There are now some better options for browser organization of panel schedules. Some parameters of electrical equipment are available for grouping, sorting, and filtering panel schedules. The panel schedule name is available for sorting along with other parameters listed above. The panel name's appearance in the panel schedule's properties. This also allows for grouping by schedule level and distribution system, and even filtering by number of phases. Project parameters are shared parameters, or let me phrase that. Project parameters and shared parameters on panel schedules can be used to group and filter. You will now notice a new category that will allow you to add project and shared parameters for enhanced organization. In Revit 2026, you can now enable the apparent power calculation method options for electrical analytical components. Assume a 1.0 power factor regardless of specified values on analytical loads when computing power and currents. Shared parameters can now be added to the circuit, the spare, and the space simultaneously. Circuit naming schemes using project parameters or shared parameters now apply consistent results for circuits, spares, and spaces. Spaces and spares are now included in circuit schedule. The panel, voltage, and systems type parameters of spares can be scheduled. After the last connection on the circuit is removed, the empty circuit can be deleted or converted to a spare. Spares now have an edit circuit command allowing connections to be added. The spare can be disconnected from the panel. It can be found in System Browser or a circuit schedule. After a panel is deleted, the space is deleted along with the panel. Circuit path routes will now route to the location of nested families, leading to improved behavior for home runs and circuit pathways. Distribution system and part type are available in view filters to support better documentation, which will help increase the ability to more easily organize electrical design information. Elements modeled on the food service, medical equipment, fire protection, audiovisual devices, and signage categories. Display behavior is now consistent with other MEP categories in MEP discipline views. Families display in plan view regardless of their relation to the cut plane, and elements will no longer display as an underlay or half tone. So we get full line weights on some of those items now. Kind of alleviates a lot of fun little workarounds. Analytical pipe and duct segments were previously added in Revit 25 to enable visualization and inspection of pressure drop and flow data in design and fabrication networks. This improvement now enables loss coefficient and pressure drop values to be overridden with custom values. Dynamo nodes have also been added to help develop automation workflows using custom calculation methods. This will help enable engineers incorporate custom pipe duct sizing pressure loss calculations into their workflows. Revit 26 brings more improved capabilities for fabrication parts, including manufacturability and user control with step-down connectors. The new step-down extension parameter provides independent control from the connector straight, allowing parameters from the connector breakpoint table to be combined. Length of parts with step-down connectors will be more consistent. Improved skin offset and alignment features will improve accuracy and model geometry. Settings have now been added to the part properties to allow for more precise control over the placement of the step-down connector geometry. This will greatly reduce the irregularities in output that require manual adjustments to flat pattern developments and ensure more consistent behavior across all supported patterns. The new MEP content editor now includes a preview of connectors that provides the ability to inspect the geometry before committing to the model. Connector origin and snap points provide greater clarity, which improves confidence and efficiency when assigning connectors to parts. It is also possible to create a thumbnail from the active preview to enable visual identification in tabular view. So as we wind down our webcast, you might be curious what is next. Well, you can always check out the AEC roadmaps via this QR code. There you will find topics listed regarding where the software is headed. You can also be a part of the discussion by rating topics on importance to you. And another way to provide feedback and track Revit development is through the preview release. You can apply to join the preview to have early access to beta testing of new features and tool sets in Revit. The application does require a signed non-disclosure agreement, and they've really found that preview users value the direct interaction with the product team, as well as reaping the benefits for better planning for future upgrades. Being a part of the preview release also provides opportunity to participate in the Inside the Factory events. All right, so I know we really went through a lot of material today, so thank you very much for your time and attention. And that being said, this year we are going to be doing something in addition to the What's New webcast. Within the next several weeks, we will be releasing some deeper dive videos for selected topics that you've seen here today. I believe those will be available on the Hagerman Hub, if I'm not mistaken, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. And with that, let me take a quick look here. See how we're doing on the questions. All right. Yeah, so if you had any questions, feel free to type those in to the Q&A panel. And I know we went over a little bit, so I'll give everyone a minute to type those in. And while you're typing those in, if we don't have a chance to answer them, I'm usually able to follow up with those in the next several days. So please ask away. And I added some contact information, so if you have any questions later, or you just want to send me a link or show off something cool you were working on, feel free to reach out to me on any of the platforms listed here. And I'm not even kidding about that. I provided this information here so you can use it. I personally love seeing the things you guys are working on here. So I also like hearing some of the challenges you're facing in your day-to-day design work. So, and also just getting to know everyone. So please feel free to reach out at any time. All right, another few seconds for any questions to come on in here.